Welcome to another video Onshape tutorial where we've been modelling the resin lamp that the BryPrep students made. In this video we're going to look at creating an exploded assembly and turning that into a quick drawing. So I've loaded up my assembly. I'm on my assembly tab at the bottom. Not on my part studio, but on the assembly tab, and so you can see that I've got both top blocks in there and I have all of the feet in place. We're looking at this in an isometric perspective. If your drawing's not in isometric, then you can left click by the cube and select isometric from the menu that appears. So what we're going to do is we're going to basically pull our assembly apart as if it had exploded so we can see what the different components look like. So to use that, we're going to use the Exploded Views tab over on the right hand side. So I'm going to left click on there and you'll see it brings up this space that kind of takes up a lot of room. I'm just going to drag that over a little bit to give us a little bit more working space. And the first thing I'm going to do is to click on Add Exploded View. So you can see we're editing Explode 1. I'm just going to use the mouse wheel to sort of zoom out a little bit. There we go. And then I can do this in a different range of ways, but what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to select all of the parts apart from the feet and I'm just going to gradually pull everything upwards. So I can do that on the model. I can do it over here if I want to. So I can select each of those parts from the menu, leaving the feet. I've selected one there, so let's click on it again to unselect it, and I'm just going to drag that upwards and still until we can see the 4 feet. Once I've done that, I'm going to left click to say I'm happy with that step. I'm then going to left click in space to unselect everything, and then I'm going to select everything apart from the bottom layer. So let's go through and do that. So I don't want the bottom, I want the center, the top, the resin, and the 2 top blocks, and I'm now just going to drag that up slightly until it's kind of clear. We could have a slight overlap if we wanted to, because there's going to be quite a lot of stuff there. Left click to confirm, left click in space, and let's go through those again. In this case, well, both top blocks, it's the bottom block and the block center I don't want. Drag that up a little bit. Now I left the resin behind. Now if I left click on the resin, it should follow up. Left click to say I'm happy. Left click in space. Okay, so this time let's just actually select the blocks that I want on the screen. So I want those, makes it a bit easier. Just drag that up again. Left click to say I'm happy. Pick the last 2 blocks. Drag those up. Left click to say I'm happy. Click in space. Select the last block. Drag that up. Says I'm happy. So I'm happy. So there we go. There's our exploded drawing. If we'd shown facets like the screws to hold the feet on, we might have pulled those down to show where they fit. But we're happy with where everything is at the moment. So we're done with that exploded view. So I'm going to left click to say that we're done. It puts it back, but we can swap between the 2 if we want. So how do we turn this into a drawing? Well, we need to create a drawing, so let's do that. So in the bottom left hand corner of our screen we've got a little plus sign. If we left click on there, we've got the option to create a drawing, so left click on there. There are some pre-selected templates. I tend to use a custom template when I do mine because it means that I can pick the options that I want, and arguably in the UK at the moment we use a little bit of a mix match. So we tend to have drawings in 3rd angle, but we tend to, which is kind of known as American angle. It's the American system, but it's easier to understand, and most places now will draw things in 3rd angle. It's become the preference, but we want to use ISO paper sizes. So click on ISO, and you see that it jumps to 1st angle. A4. Now I'm aware that some of you might be doing this in your prep schools. You might not have A3 printers, so let's do this on an A4 portrait piece of paper, especially as we've got quite a tall assembly. So English A4 portrait, we'll go 3rd angle. Not that's going to matter because we're going to be drawing an isometric, and we can include the boxes or the information around the outside of our piece of paper. So click on OK, and that will take us over to a blank piece of paper, and you can see that we've got our title box in here that we can go in and edit if we want to. So we can select a part or an assembly. So we're going to select an assembly. So let's left click on assembly, and we want assembly 1. We've not renamed it, so it's just called assembly 1. We can see it wants to draw it half scale, and we can see that get a preview of what it's going to look like. We want to do an exploded isometric. So our view orientation is not going to be front, but it's going to be isometric. So again, we can see with the same settings, it will give us a nice view, but we want to change it so that it shows in its exploded form. So where it says explode in position, we're going to change that from default, click on the arrow to explode number 1, and we can see that that's probably just going to fit in. So let's left click to place that, and we now have our exploded assembly drawing. Now we can label this with balloons. We can do it automatically. We could insert a little table in there that we could then edit. It's probably a little bit too far for the context of this to sort of start playing around with naming parts and using part numbers. But what we can do, I suppose, is to look at ballooning it, so that we can add on balloons. So if we look here, we have different callouts, and we can assign each of those to one of our parts if we want to. However, because we haven't set up a table, it's not going to number them. Now, if you were doing this with students, they were going to do a screenshot of this and put it into their particular folder work. You could just get them to create a table in Word or Excel with the different parts and different part numbers, and you could allow them to draw circles with numbers in to label all the different parts. The software will do it, but you've got to play around with the table first of all, which means going back and setting some properties for each of the parts we've drawn. And I think that's probably a little bit beyond what we're trying to achieve here. But we can see that we've got an exploded assembly, and I'll just delete those balloons. And from this you could do a screenshot, or you could actually save it, or you could print it. You could even print this off and let students have a go at rendering the different components, but you could see how the different parts fit together. So you could use this simply printed out as an instructional sheet as well. I hope you've enjoyed the tutorials. I hope it's given you a bit of an insight into how you might be able to use Onshape. We use it with all of our students from Year 9 and upwards, and it's a really useful tool, and it allows them to create components that they could then manufacture on 3D printers or on CNC milling and routers. So go away, have a play. And if you found it useful, have a look at my YouTube channel, and there are some additional tutorials for pizza cutters and skateboards and things like that that you may want to follow through and develop your Onshape skills. Thanks for watching. Bye.